to Devils United. Today I've got Matt for the player profile of Donny Van De Beek. Matt, how are you?
I'm great, mate. Thanks very much for having me on the show and in the channel. I've been watching your channel grow over the last probably 6 to 9 months, I suppose. So fair play to you. It's flying at the moment. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you as well for the support in the channel. It means a lot. And taking the time to come on.
No
Because I
problem.
know both of us have been busy working and stuff today as well. As you can see, I'm still smart and everything as well. Before we get into it, I'll quickly jump into the comments. Good evening to you, Brush. I hope you are well. I nearly said good afternoon, thinking it's like the afternoon, but
I know, yeah.
Hey
Only
there,
6 minutes into the
Solo.
evening, so it's all right. Only 6 minutes into the evening, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm still afternoon mode.
Exactly.
Hey there, Solo. I hope you are well. Hey there, Andrew. Loves how Maisy pronounces Donny. Donny.
Funny.
Donny. I
The
think that's my
Coronation Street.
accent. I suppose that's what you could describe me as, Coronation Street.
Yeah.
We're all man.
Donny.
Hey there, Rafa. I hope you are good. I think Andrew was referring to my thumbnail because Donny was doing that.
All right.
I have no clue why I got the picture.
I don't know why he did that as well. I really don't know why he did that in the Everton pictures. I don't know why.
Maisy has the best pronunciations and accent. Big up to you, Rafa. Yep. So we'll talk about Donny's time at Everton because we have both said he's not made many appearances for us either. He made a total of 7 appearances and he scored one goal.
Yep. And that goal was against Arsenal on the last day of the season when Everton were well and truly on the beach after surviving against Crystal Palace. So, yeah, it was. Do you know what? I think. I suppose we'll go back from the start when he was brought in by Frank Lampard. I think Frank Lampard came in very late in the January transfer window, and I think he was kind of struggling. He kind of probably had a look at the squad and kind of thought the midfield is lacking in a bit of depth and stuff like that. Obviously Everton were picking up a lot of injuries, and he kind of said, "Right, I kind of need to get somebody in." He probably found out that Donny Van De Beek was available. Like Donny Van De Beek didn't have to move house or anything like that. It was a case of literally just go here for 6 months and see and maybe get a bit of game time. Everything that was going on at Manchester United last season as well, with the turmoil. Obviously, Ollie was there at the start, and then the new manager came in. Ralph came in, and then it was all kind of up in the air for Donny. He was kind of caught in limbo. So I think he probably thought it would have been a good move for him. He was definitely going to be getting games. But the problem with it is that Frank Lampard came in, I think, thinking that he was going to be able to transfer the Everton squad and make them play attacking, progressive football. And then he quickly realised that they aren't very good footballers. But in fairness, the first couple of games that Donny Van De Beek played, there was 2 games that stuck out for me. One of the games was the Brentford. No, it wasn't the Brentford FA Cup game because he was cup tied. It was the Leeds game. I think that Everton won handily as well, and he came on and really changed it. But it's one of those games where Everton were always going to have possession. It was at home at Goodison Park, and Donny was kind of given free rein in the middle of the park. He also played very well in the Manchester City game, the infamous Rodri handball that wasn't a handball. And then the wheels kind of came off for Everton a little bit after that in a couple of games. And Donny Van De Beek picked up an injury in the warm-up away to Burnley. And that was the last time we had really seen him for Everton. But I think it was a shame because I think Frank Lampard kind of realised, right, we're in survival mode here. And he kind of had to pick players that he could kind of trust just to get a job done and try and get a result. And even though Donny Van De Beek was fit for the last couple of games, it was literally, I need people who I know are going to get me a result. And like I think Dele Alli was kind of in the same boat as Donny Van De Beek. Can I trust Dele to do a job for me when I don't know if he's in the right frame of mind? I just literally just need a solid back 8 and then hopefully nick a goal in the counter attack. And it worked out in the end. But again, unfortunately, I think Donny was just he was involved in an unfortunate set of circumstances, I suppose, obviously like he was at United, and then it happened at Everton. I don't think when he went to Everton originally that he thought that he was going to be involved in the relegation battle, unfortunately. And the manager had to do what he did, and I think that's one of probably the main reasons, along with the injury, that he got dropped out of the Everton squad as well.
Mm-hmm. I know you bought Everton bought Dele Alli. Do you think that, because when I've seen like they haven't played together that much, Donny and Dele Alli? Do you think there was both similar midfielders where they couldn't really play together, or do you think it was just a coincidence they didn't really play much together?
I'm not sure really. I think the Dele Alli deal came around. I think it was kind of Dele Alli was kind of presented to Everton as in, if you want him, you can have him, but you have to take him now. The media were reporting that it was like a £40 million deal. It's nothing like a £40 million deal at all. The deal is set up that once Dele Alli makes 20 appearances for Everton, we owe them £10 million. And once he scores 25 goals or something like that, we owe him £10 million, which isn't going to happen. And then if Everton qualify for Europe, and then if Everton qualify for the Champions League, it's £40 million. So none of that is going to happen in the next 2 years. So we basically, at most, we're going to owe them 10 million. But I think the Dele Alli coming in with Frank Lampard, I think, was kind of one, like I said before, you can have him now if you want him. And then the Donny Van De Beek coming in as well on loan was kind of, okay, now we have 2 more players in midfield. I don't know. Again, I can't really, even though he's played for your team, Manchester United, and my team for 7 games, I can't really tell you what Donny Van De Beek's best position is. For Everton, he kind of took up that kind of number 8 role, I suppose, where he was kind of floating back in box to box. And I don't really know how Frank Lampard is going to put Dele Alli into this squad either. So I don't really know how to answer your question, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But I don't see how you could play Donny Van De Beek and Dele Alli in the same team, especially when Everton needed to play 5 at the back.
Yeah, because I look at Donny you look at him more in terms of Ajax. He was best in that number 10 role. And you look at the Manchester United team, there's not a chance that he's going to get ahead of Bruno Fernandes. No way. So the only way he would actually fit in is if we played the 4-3-3. And if we played the 4-3-3, and now we've got Eriksen, which midfielder's going to get dropped? Bruno, Donny, Eriksen. And if you want me to be honest, the one who's probably most likely going to get dropped again is Donny. I really do think so.
Yeah. But the only thing is with Manchester United now is that they're probably going to be playing 60+ games this season.
Yeah.
So they're gonna need squad depth, and I think Ten Hag is going to use that. He knows how to play Donny Van De Beek. He knows what games he's going to be suited with. The problem with bringing Ajax players in, Everton have been stung by this before with Davy Klaassen. We got in Davy Klaassen, their captain as well. After that good Europa League run they had, I actually think they got beaten by Manchester United in the final, didn't they?
We did. We won 2-0 in the 2017 Europa League final. It still gives me goosebumps, even though that's our last trophy.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. So Everton kind of looked at Davy Klaassen and said, that he can do a job for us, and it was the same kind of window where we brought Wayne Rooney back as well, and we just brought in too many players at the same time. But the problem with it is that you're taking a player like Davy Klaassen, who's going from a team like Ajax, where week in, week out, they're getting 70+% possession. They have loads of time in the field, can spray the balls left, right, and centre in the Dutch league. And then they're going into a team like Everton, where they're probably only having 30% possession, and they're constantly trying to defend. And that's where they're found out. So that's the issue. Like, obviously, if you put Davy Klaassen into a team that has loads of possession like Liverpool or Man City, you probably see the best of them. And that's maybe what I think Donny Van De Beek is kind of struggling with a little bit, because over the last 2 seasons, Donny Van De Beek's with United 2 years now, isn't he?
Yeah, he joined in 2020.
So I think you can kind of probably say to yourself is that United haven't been that kind of attacking threat that they used to be. Like, I suppose it's probably been more 50% possession wise. They aren't kind of dominating in the midfield areas like they used to. And unfortunately, I don't think any manager who's been at Manchester United has been able to trust Donny Van De Beek in that midfield. So again, that's what I was saying to you off air. I kind of feel sorry for him. Any player that comes from the Dutch league lately who starred in those Ajax teams, like even Ziyech with Chelsea, he was a superstar for Ajax in the Champions League. He struggled like the last 18 months to 2 years for Chelsea. So I don't know. I'll ask you a question, May, I suppose. Do you think Donny Van De Beek is a good player?
I think he is a good player, but there's a couple of things that do worry me. I've always said this. If you are a good enough player, you will get the start. If you've shown yourself in training you are capable to do this, and if you're not a player who gets started regularly, but then you get your opportunity, you need to show that why you should be playing ahead of the likes of Bruno, who's in no position, even Paul Popper at the time, why he should be starting ahead of those two. When I have seen Donny come off the bench, he's electric, and I think he needs to play more often. But then when I see him start a game, I think, what's going on? Why have I not seen the same performance as I seen last week when he came off the bench? I think he's very inconsistent, what I've seen. I don't know whether it is the lack of game time. People are saying it's confidence issues, but the more I have seen, I look at it and think, this is going to be, for me now, a make or break season for Donny. I think if he can't do it this season under Ten Hag and he's not getting the game time under Ten Hag, I don't think he's going to make it at all in this league.
I think Manchester United, obviously, I knew very little about Ten Hag before the United links kind of surfaced. And I think everyone who followed the Premier League kind of took notice of him over the last probably year. And then I do think he's the type of manager that, I don't know how to word this probably. I think Solskjaer and maybe Ralph were playing players who probably didn't deserve to keep their name in the starting 11. Bruno went through a bit of a stretch where he couldn't kick snow off a rope, but he was still getting game time. Obviously, you have Ronaldo there as well. That's up in the air at the moment as well. But I do think, now this isn't, I don't know, people can probably correct me here. From my personal opinion on Erik Ten Hag, I think he might be the type of player, no matter what your name is, if you're not playing well, you'll be dropped. So that's where I think Donny Van De Beek might be able to get game time. And also, if Manchester United have a big game coming up on the weekend, Donny Van De Beek's probably going to play the majority of the Europa League games, early FA Cup games, all the kind of stuff. So, like those Europa League games come thick and fast early in the season. So before the winter break for the World Cup, like Donny Van De Beek, you might say he mightn't get that much game time, but he still might play 10 to 15 games for Manchester United before the winter break. And like you said, he's only played 27 times for Manchester United since he joined. So, and the majority of them were substitute appearances. So he probably will find himself getting a lot more game time under Ten Hag this season.
Yeah, I do want to see what he is capable of, because I think with the way Bruno is, and the reason why Bruno doesn't get dropped is, when I've worked it out, since he's come to the Premier League, is 70% of his Premier League appearances he scored or assisted. 70%, and you look at that, he might not be able to string an odd pass or whatever, and he is a bit of an headless chicken at times, but you need that kind of creativity on the pitch, what we was lacking. And I think with Donny, he is a different type of midfielder where I don't think he's as creative as Bruno, but what I've watched is intelligent on the ball. So, and that's what I have liked about Donny. He's one step ahead of everybody else. And I think the only way he could fit into this team is if we played the 4-3-3, because I don't think he really suits being in the pivot, to be honest. Because when I seen him in the first season, he was tried as the pivot and the wing, and I don't think he suited either of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be a really difficult season, I think, for Manchester United. I think if United have a bad run of games, they're going to be under serious pressure again, and like the people are going to be calling for Ten Hag, is he a fraud and all this kind of stuff, because like we're saying, Dutch players find it hard making that transition to the Premier League. It's probably going to be the same for Ten Hag. He's coming from a league that he basically dominated week in, week out for the last 4 to 5 years. And now he's coming into a league where he could literally lose every game any given Sunday because it's so competitive. We seen it last year, like Manchester United can get beaten by anybody. The way they are at the moment. Same with Everton. Everton were getting beaten every week. So,
You still beat
but it
us.
is.
We only picked up 1 point against you. Come
I
on.
know, yeah. But Everton, it just goes to show you how bad were Everton last year that we, like Chelsea didn't beat us either. Chelsea only picked up 1 point against us. We took 3 points off Arsenal, and then we barely stayed up last season. Oh, what a year! But to finish off on Donny Van De Beek, I think sometimes players, especially with Manchester United, are bought not necessarily for the name, but kind of just bought to be a big money sign. And I think Donny was one of those players who was brought in. And sometimes players just aren't suited to certain systems and certain teams. Donny Van De Beek's been there for 2 years. He's now playing under his third manager. Do you know what I mean? So systems change. The next system change could suit Donny. It could completely go against him again. And maybe the best thing for him is to move on. But the problem that they have there is Manchester United are also notorious for not letting their players go cheap. And if they've paid 35, 40 million for him, they're going to want that back. So he's kind of is stuck in limbo. What does he do? There's a World Cup coming up.
Yeah.
Is he going to go out on loan again? And who's going to want him? Because I think what Donny needs to do is if Donny does go out on loan again, his agent has to basically make sure that the team he goes to suits him and basically gets the best out of him. Because at the moment, it's not Manchester United, and it might be at Everton, but I think Everton have brought in players that we actually don't need a Donny Van De Beek now. And I think Frank Lampard's going to set up completely different. So it's going to be interesting to see where he does end up. I do kind of see him probably staying at Manchester United for the first kind of 6 months, and then maybe he might do another 6 month loan. But it all depends on what he wants as well. He wants to, because like I think Van Gaal, the Dutch manager, said if you're not playing for your team, like you can't really be expected to get called up for your national team either. So
Yeah,
it's
and
going to be
that's
interesting to
right.
see.
I always say that in terms of country is that you do need to play game time. You need to be on form if you expect to be playing for your country. Because I always say our country is an award for playing well. That's what I always say. And I'd always say that about my own country. I'd say it about anybody else's who whatever players come through. Whoever comes through to the country, their club, their country's football, they need to be on such good form, especially if you're going to the World Cup or the Euros. The thing is with Donny, I know you did touch on a loan, and I genuinely think if he was to go on loan, he would mostly suit probably going abroad and getting form up from there because he's already tried a Premier League loan. And now I think he needs to try maybe Italy or Spain, in my opinion, to try and pick up some form and some goals.
I agree with you. But if his end term and his long term goal is to succeed at United, he needs to get used to the Premier League, and whether that's do you know what, someone like Brighton might be a good move for him.
No,
Do you know what I mean? Somewhere like that kind of like possession based football. They like to play free flowing football, attacking football, and stuff like that. I think he probably suit a team like Brighton. They obviously lost Basuma as well, during the middle of the year, or during the transfer window. So maybe somebody like that, or even like maybe a Wolves who are struggling for players at the moment as well on loan. I just think he needs to basically become a bit of a star man in midfield for a team, and I agree with you that if worse comes to worse, he might have to go elsewhere abroad. But I think if his long term goal is to succeed at United, he's going to have to get to the Premier League, going to get used to the Premier League. He mightn't be a Premier League player. It's happened to numerous players before, and he's not going to be the last either. So I think I would like to see him at Brighton. Actually, Brighton's a good shout. I'm proud of myself now for picking that one out.
You did do a good one. Brighton is a terrific shout, to be fairly honest. I always think Brighton, Wolves is definitely a good one you mentioned as well. And now I'm thinking of some teams who could too. I'll get back to you on some players who I think could suit, because I think it'd be good. Maybe even Crystal Palace because he was actually linked to Crystal Palace, wasn't he, in January?
Yeah.
And I think even Crystal Palace could be a good idea because they're attacking kind of football now. And what better manager to, apart from a former manager, to teach you the Premier League than a ex-player in the Premier League and as a Premier League legend of Patrick Vieira.
I think Rich and the boys on Eagle Eye Football, they be but they are slagging because Nate always says as well from Eagle Eye Football that Donny Van De Beek chose Everton over Crystal Palace because he didn't want to be involved in a relegation battle. And that kind of went the other way last season. So
same with Newcastle. Yeah, apparently he didn't want Newcastle for the exact same reason.
That mightn't be a bad loan move either, but I think Newcastle apparently are bringing in James Maddison as well, so their midfield is looking fairly stacked as well. So I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting one. I think it's gonna kind of go on a bit later. Like I think there's 6 Premier League games, and a cup game like in the month of August. There's loads of games in the month of August because it's kind of condensed before that. So that's probably 5 or 6 chances for Donny to kind of make up his mind, where he lies before he says to his agent, "Get me out of here again." So.
And there's still a couple of games where potentially he could start in the Premier League. We've got we're playing Brentford, for instance, this month, and they're the kind of games what you would at least want to see him coming off the bench on the 60th or 70th minute.
It's going to be a bit of a pain now if Erik ten Hag starts to play the youth ahead of him.
Yeah, because he's a fan of Iqbal. I don't know how much you've watched United's youth
Garnacho. I think Garnacho played a bit yesterday, yeah. So it's going to be interesting. You'd be disgusted now for Donny. Like I said, I feel sorry for him. But obviously, if he's not good enough for United, he's not good enough for United. But there's probably nothing worse for him. Like the price tag that he was brought in on the wages that he's on as well. Like I said, United aren't going to let him go cheap if he does want to go. So, and if he's sitting on the bench and maybe even gets dropped out of a few squads, so there's youngsters on the bench. It's going to be really bad news for Donny Van De Beek, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. We'll quickly go through the comments and then we'll touch on a few other things.
Yeah.
Hey there, Vaughn. I hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. Sorry to hear you've got COVID. Get well soon. Hey there, Martin. I hope you're well. Football has come home. Yeah. Both me and Matt are absolutely buzzing about it. I know.
Well, I'm Irish. I'm not absolutely buzzing.
You're buzzing in a way. Like,
I know. Fair play. I was saying to y'all fair there. So fair play to them. Congratulations. But I'm not absolutely buzzing about it. What? I'm kind of delighted about it.
I'm gonna rub all my buzzingness onto you, and then we can both be buzzing.
Yeah. Well, my mum is English, so I'm happy for my mum. So.
Oh bless. Okay. Let's have a see what people are saying in the chat. There's loads of comments as well. Ravi did have a question. Will Ten Hag get the best out of Donny? I think he's the only one for me in terms of football in the Premier League who can probably get the best out of him. And that's why I always say if he's not gonna succeed in Ten Hag as a manager, then that's where I will look at starting to think what's going to really going on with Donny now at Manchester United. It is his time basically up. What about you? What do you think about that, Matt?
I think the only positive that Donny has with this managerial appointment for Manchester United is that this manager knows exactly what his capabilities are. Yeah. So it'll be a very damning statement if Ten Hag still isn't picking Donny for certain games. Because if Ten Hag isn't instilling trust in Donny Van De Beek to play certain games, or if it's a case where Manchester United have one sub left and Ten Hag picks another player in a similar position over Donny, then it's not looking good. But another point to make, Maisy, that we didn't touch on as well, is that you might see Donny getting a lot more game time because of the 5 sub rule.
That is very true. That's very true. Yeah. I didn't think of that, to be honest. The 5 sub rule, because that's going to be coming into place this season, isn't it?
It's coming in straight away, yeah. So the 5 sub rule. So like you might see him getting brought on a half time, even just for a tactical change, not even to give anybody a rest and stuff like that. Or he could be getting whipped off at half time. Could be a different situation for him if he starts a game. So, yeah, so the 5-sub rule could be very good for him.
Yeah, you've made a great point. Hey there, I like coffee. I hope that you are well. Yeah, I like coffee predicted 2-1 Beth Mead and Chloe Kelly to score the winner. And he was close.
Well, she in the second half of extra time, so she was half right.
Yeah. You were sort of partly right. I like coffee. You was very, very close. Martin, it's come home. It really has. And I actually seen on Sky Sports Instagram it said 0 years of hurt.
They're gonna have to stop playing that song now, yeah.
Yeah, 1966, the picture from yesterday, but 0 years of hurt, and now I keep singing it on me. 0 years of hurt.
Yeah, they can't play that song anymore, can they? They can only really associate that with the men's national team now, can't they?
No, that one's gonna be lifetime years of hurt.
Definitely
not coming home with them, that's for sure. Reese is in the chat. Hey there, Reese. Donny has intelligence, but not for the Premier League. I do think he is very intelligent on the ball, and when I did watch of Donny yesterday, I could see that he was making them smart moves. I think, in my opinion, the midfielder who he would have suited with Manchester United, he's gone now, but Juan Mata, because they're both quite similar in what they do. So if they played in that 4-3-3, because Mata was always put on the wings and we never seen the best out of Juan Mata, and if they played in a 4-3-3 and we had like Matic, for instance, in the middle, I think we would have even seen a lot better out of Donny. It probably doesn't help that the midfielders who we have are either sloppy or they're not making that little bit of risk with the sideward backward passing as well.
Yeah, well, see, it's going to be, like you say, Matic, Mata and Pogba have all left the club. So that's 3 midfielders who were potentially in positions that Donny could have taken up last season. So if he doesn't get his game this season, when those 3 players are gone, then it's the writing's on the wall, I think, for Donny.
Definitely. I like Coffee said, I'm a bit disappointed Donny didn't join our project at Newcastle. We did so well without him with Bruno. Yeah, Bruno was terrific for Newcastle. To me, it was probably the January transfer, best transfer, if you want me to be honest, for January that season. But in my opinion, though, I actually think Donny could have potentially done well at Newcastle, depending on the kind of formation they set up as, because I know they do set up quite a bit of formation, change of formation. They go from 2 at times. They play a 4-3-3, so they're quite different, aren't they? Depending who they play against.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, I think Callum Wilson was injured for a lot of last season, and they brought in Chris Wood. So I think they're going to try and chop and change the formation this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how Newcastle set up. But it's hard to kind of predict where Donny would fit in, because, like we say, we just haven't seen enough of him in the Premier League. So it's really difficult. Reese, who gave the last comment there, if he's still watching, where do you think that Donny would fit in? Pick a Premier League team. Where do you think he would fit in?
I'm still thinking of mine. I'm actually going to look at the Premier League table as well whilst I look at the comments. Hello there as well to Talk MU. I hope you are well. Dash is in the chat. I hope you're well. Haven't seen the chat before. Donny is a good player who needs some confidence because it's so low on confidence because of Ole. I definitely see why you think it's because of Ole, because he didn't play a lot of games, but he hasn't played a lot of games under a lot of players, under a few managers. In my opinion, though, if you want me to be honest, I actually think Donny was bought as a backup option. I think we initially wanted Jack Grealish, and the board looked at it and think, nah, I ain't paying 80 million for Jack Grealish. And then you've heard all these good rumours about Donny from Van der Sar, like, oh, look at this player from Ajax, he's the next big thing. And I think they think, oh, he's similar to Grealish and he's £40 million cheaper, so we'll go for him instead. Not saying that he isn't a good player and he shouldn't be at the club, but I genuinely think that is the reason why he has come. And knowing that, that transfer window, there was loads of rumours. Paul Pogba's leaving for Real Madrid. So I think that, and I think Man United thought, oh, he's actually leaving. And I think it got to a point where maybe nearly personal terms were signed. So I genuinely think that he was bought based off the board not wanting to pay so much money towards Jack Grealish.
There's talk now that Jack Grealish is going back on loan to Aston Villa. It's just all money laundering, I think, Maisy, isn't it? There's just so much money in the game now. It's just ridiculous. But that's where Manchester United need to step away from as well. Buying backup midfielders for £40 million. That's just not a good model at all. There's loads and loads and loads of players out there in the cheaper, like Crystal Palace signed Decore, who apparently is the next best thing, and they spent £16 million on him. They're the type of players that Manchester need to be buying. Not Donny Van De Beek for 40 million when it's literally a flip of a coin whether he's going to be good or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with that. And I think the thing is you need to sign. This is what I've noticed about. I don't know if it's the same with Everton, but it's like players are getting. I'm not saying Donny is this one, but players are coming because it's more of a panic, not because it suits the manager. It suits what we're wanting to look at building at Manchester United. And I think that ends up costing us massively. Some people probably in the chat would argue that Ronaldo was probably that. Some people will probably argue that Fred was that. It is obviously vary between each person, but I don't know if that's the same at Everton because I know you've had some crazy signings over the past so many years.
Do you know what? I think this window, the circumstances that Everton have found themselves in, do you know what? I'm trying to see the positive in it. For the simple reason is that somebody needed to stop Farhad Moshiri spending so much money aimlessly. And it came down to the point where the Premier League basically came in and said, you are not allowed to spend money anymore. Simple as that. And it's probably worked in our favour a little bit. Now, people in the comments and Manchester United fans now might laugh at me for my next statement, but bringing in people like James Tarkowski on a free is a real typical Everton signing. A robust English centre-half who's going to go through you for a shortcut. We've missed that for years, especially since the money came in. We've never replaced Gana Gay since he left 3 years ago, so we've gone and decided to replace him with Gana Gay. He's coming back to Everton apparently from PSG. He's on Merseyside now, apparently having a medical, so that should be announced probably tonight or tomorrow. But you know what? If he's coming back in for half his wages, which is apparently what's happening, and apparently it's going to be less than 5 million, I think PSG just want to get him off the wage books. I'm all for it because it's exactly what we've been missing since we sold him to PSG. So if he comes back in and he does the same job, people are saying, oh yeah, but he's 33 or he's 32, he's going to be 33 in September. He got man of the match against Real Madrid 6 months ago in the Champions League. He's still a really, really good footballer. And the fact that Everton finished 16th in the Premier League last year, we need players like him. And then we bring in Dwight McNeil. Again, I was really on the fence when I heard we brought him in. But he's come in and he's done a really good job. Well, he scored 2 goals in his debut against Dynamo Kiev. And I think he's going to be utilised differently than what he was at Burnley. Burnley, he was a very defensive-minded attacking player, if that makes sense. But I think Frank Lampard wants to use him in a different way. He's only 22 years of age and we're getting him for about £15 million. So, again, another decent sign. And then we brought in back up on the left-hand side as well. So, and apparently we're bringing in 2 or 3 more players. But we're going to probably bring in 5 or 6 players and it's going to be all for less than probably £30 million. So that's the exact same. That's the exact window that Everton needed to do, but it took us to be under financial restraints in order for us to actually start being smart with our money and bringing in players that we actually needed in certain positions. Like if I'm telling you now for a fact that if we didn't have any financial restrictions, Everton could have needed a centre half, a centre mid, and we would have brought in a goalkeeper for £50 million. Like the man Moshiri is absolutely wild. He doesn't know how to spend money properly. And I'm just delighted that Ed was telling me a lot about Kevin Telwell. He used to be at Wolves. He's in there now. And it does look like he's using his old contacts, bringing in players from the likes of Burnley and Frank Lampard, trying to hijack a few Chelsea players as well. But it's what we needed to do. And I'm just happy that like I said, I'm taking the positive from the fact that Everton have been cash strapped now over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah,
In a long-winded answer.
yeah. I think the signings you have made has been pretty smart so far, because I actually really like James Tarkowski. I think he's a great player,
Yeah.
a great centre back, and I think, I'm not saying it's him in particular, but I think he was one of the key players what helped Burnley to stay up for all these years. I think he's solid. He can play in the back four and a back three. He's a leader as well, and I think, especially in the back line, what Everton have, you need leaders in that back line to sit and to put to tell players where to go, where not to go. Ben Godfrey, and I think he's a great centre back. I don't know if you still have Ben Godfrey.
Yeah, he's still there. Yeah. I think Everton are going to play a back three this season. I think it's going to be, basically Tarkowski and Ben Godfrey are definitely going to be in the back three, and then it's going to be Yerry Mina, and if he's not fit, then it'll be either Mason Holgate or Michael Keane.
And I think for Ben Godfrey in particular to have, for instance, Keane and Tarkowski next to him in the back three, I think it'd work very well in his favour to have. I'd even say Mike Keane for Everton is one of your leaders. So to have a young player like Godfrey, because he's only in his early 20s, to have them kind of players next to him, I think it'll only help in his favour, and it'll help in Everton's favour as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think young Patterson now, Nathan Patterson, who we got from Rangers there in the January transfer window, he's probably going to get a lot of game time this season. Apparently, Seamus Coleman is injured for the start of the season, so Patterson's probably going to be playing a lot more. There's question marks about him defensively, but he's very, very good going forward. So that's why I think Everton are going to kind of play three at the back and have the wing backs in Michaelenko and Patterson on the either side. And I think they're going to have Godfrey on the right hand side of the back three to kind of give Patterson that kind of backup he needs, because he's loads of pace and he's robust as well.
He's a great player.
Like he's young again. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The smart signings that we've made. Michaelenko is young, room to improve. Patterson young, room to improve. If Patterson kicks on over the next 2 seasons and becomes an unbelievable right back, and United want to come in and take him off us, at least we're making money off it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas before, we'd spend 60 million on a right back and then he'd leave for free. Like Andre Gomez now at the moment, we gave Barcelona 27 million for their bench warmer, and he's 2 years left in his contract. And he's apparently told us yesterday that he's just going to sit there on his 100 grand a week contract for the next 2 years. So that's the problem that Everton have. That's the reason why we're in the situation that we're in.
Yeah. Do you know, I was looking at Everton as well, because of course, I know a lot of Everton fans have such a mixed view on Rafa Benitez, but under Ancelotti, I could see your face back just then, but when you had Ancelotti, he made some pretty good signings. Like, one for me, what stands out is James Rodriguez. And I look at him and think, how did Everton let him go so easily like that?
So it's one of those where it's like, if you look at one side of the coin and the other side of the coin, Ancelotti came in, and I think, again, Mashiri was kind of like, oh, we have Carlo Ancelotti, he's our Hollywood manager, we're going to be brilliant with him. And Carlo kind of said, yeah, I'll become your manager, but I want this, and this player. Like, James Rodriguez came in, he was brilliant for us for the season that he was there. He didn't play as many games as I think he should have played. There's a lot of games where he was like, he didn't play on a cold Wednesday night away to West Ham because he was tired. He missed the last 4 games of the season because he was fatigued, but then he went on a plane over to play for Colombia in the Copa America. So it's all those kind of stuff. Like, I loved him as he was at the club when he played in certain games. The goals he scored were brilliant, but he was on 150 grand a week or something like that. Like, Everton need to step away from giving players Champions League wages when we're battling relegation.
Yeah.
Like, Everton need to be giving players 30, 40, 50, at max 80 grand a week, because Andre Gomez has scored 2 goals and 2 assists, and he's been at the club 3 years now.
Wow.
So, and we're giving him 110 grand a week, and he's not even going to be in Frank Lampard's plans now. We need to be giving players 20 grand a week and say, if you want a new contract, show us what you're made of. That's what Everton were before the money came in. And that's what they need to get back to, because since the money came in, we've gone from finishing 6th and 7th and qualifying in Europe to having the worst Premier League season in my living memory. So I don't want that to happen again, and I'm all for this bringing players in on loan, bringing young players in who have a high ceiling. I'm all for that. Gana Gay is kind of coming back in as kind of a necessity, kind of to plug the hole that we're missing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if it's a 1-2 year deal, I'm more than happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of what Everton need, don't they? And even for players who are not doing so well, like even discuss potentially pay cuts, because I know Man United did do pay cuts on some players all the players, because we didn't have no Europe. So I think this is the kind of thing what football's missing as well, where players aren't performing, or the club's not performing, and as you've said, you're fighting relegation, yet a player's on 150k a week. 150k a week for getting into relegation.
Yeah, it's. I think Andre Gomez and Yerry Mina are the only two players that are probably still on 100+ grand a week. I think Pickford might be on 100 grand a week. I'm not actually sure. I think he's about to sign a new contract, so I think he might be. But listen, I don't mind Pickford being on 100 grand a week. He's literally kept us up. He's England's number one. He deserves that. If he doesn't get that at Everton, he's going to get it somewhere else. So he's the type of player that we have to give 100 grand a week to. But Yerry Mina is on 125 grand a week, and he's made of biscuits. He can't stay fit. So, in my opinion, if we can bring a player in like James Tarkowski on 80 grand a week, who's only missed 2 games through injury in his last 4 seasons, they're the type of players that we need to bring in. Players who are durable. Like Dwight McNeil has played 164 games for Burnley in the Premier League. He's only 22. They're the type of players we need to bring in. How many injuries have you heard of that Everton had in the last 3 seasons? Riddled with injuries. We just need to get rid of those players, get them off the books.
Would you say, I don't know if you do, but would you say you need like a backup for Calvert-Lewin, because he was out a lot last season as well?
We have Solomon Rondon. What are you talking about? Absolute legend.
Come on.
No, yeah, I think we do. To be honest with you, I think the problem with Calvert-Lewin is that I think he was he's still kind of grown, if that makes sense. Like 2 seasons ago, he was kind of a bit of a slight build. Now he seems to be very kind of built up now at the moment. The stop-start season with COVID, I think he picked up a couple of niggly injuries, and they were really strange injuries that he got that kept him out for the most of last season. But if he can stay fit for this whole season, it'd be a serious boost for Everton. But you're right, I think we do need to bring in another player, and I'm fingers crossed. I'm actually hoping that we do get a loan deal for Armando Broja of Chelsea.
Yeah, a lot of players want. A lot of clubs want him. West Ham, Newcastle.
But they just signed Scamacca. West Ham just signed Scamacca, so I'm kind of hoping that's sale. But the good thing about Broja is that he can play in the top 2. He can play off Dominic Calvert-Lewin, or he can play through the middle, like you say, and on the left-hand side. So he's the type of player that I think we might try and get over the line the later the window goes on, because Broja isn't going to want to stay and sit on the bench for Chelsea. But I think they're going to kind of hang on to him to see if somebody comes in and goes, there's 40 million for him. But I don't think it's going to happen either. So I'm hoping Lampard pulls the strings and goes, come and play for Everton for a season. That's what I'm kind of hoping.
I think it'd be good as well, like, if with Broja, I've said this from a Newcastle point of view as well, to try and get a loan to buy, because if he had like a top season at Everton and you decide I want to keep him, but then you never know, Chelsea could come out and say eventually, oh right, you've done terrific. Do you want to be our striker now instead of Havertz? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it still potentially could happen because of what's going on with Romelu Lukaku. And I think
Chelsea do that thing with the buyback clause.
Yeah,
Chelsea seem to do that a lot with their young players, where they sell them for say 20 million, but they put a clause in that will buy him back for 25 if he becomes a superstar, and they have first refusal. So the problem with that is for Everton, and that if they do have a buyback clause in it, and Broja becomes a superstar, and Real Madrid want to take him for 60 million, Chelsea can nip in and say, no, we're buying him back for 25 million, and then Chelsea can sell him for 60 million. So that's the problem that Everton have with those buyback options. Chelsea are known for doing that, buyback options.
Yeah, they really are. Let's quickly go through a couple more of the comments as well. Foxy, hey Foxy, how are you? No winning on my game bets, but at least England won the Euros outright 7-1. Wow, we wasn't even the favourites.
No.
Spain was actually the favourites coming into the tournament, actually. So
you beat them as well, yeah.
In the quarters. Theo's in the chat. Hey there, Theo. They won't pass the ball to Donny when he's inside the penalty box. I think as well with Donny, what I have noticed, I think he's very selfless. He's one of them where he would rather pass the ball to someone than take the shot himself. I don't know if he's been like Everton, but I've noticed that myself.
What was the goal that they scored in pre-season there against? I think it was when he was.
He hasn't.
No, he did the ball where he played it back to Sancho. Was it Sancho?
Oh,
it was one of those. It was a really good move, and he could have shot himself, but he played it back.
Yeah, he assisted
and Sancho had a tap in. Yeah. That's the type of, but that type of move is reminding me so much of an Ajax move. He was involved in the middle to build a play. He sprayed it out wide. He got into the box. He got the ball back and he squared it, and it was tap-in goal. There's the type of goals. That's liquid football, and Manchester United need to get back to that.
I completely agree. Reese has said 3-4-3 or 3-4-1-2. I hate that formation, just by the way. 3-4-1-2. I'm a bit picky with the formations. I know Reese knows this, but I'm very picky with formations. And it's just a mouthful. 3-4-1-2. Yeah. Do you think any of them formations for Everton?
I think Everton over the last 2 seasons have really struggled with only playing 2 in midfield. In the centre midfield. Now that might change with Gana Gay coming back in. But with the players we had before, as in last season and the season before, we needed to have 3 in midfield because it was Gomez and Doucouré on their own in midfield. They struggled. They just got overrun. If it was Alan and Doucouré, they got overrun. Doucouré is a bit of a headless chicken, so if there's 3 people in there, you can just let him go off and do what he wants. But when it came down to having 2 in midfield, we really, really struggled. But 3-4-1-2 could probably work, but I think we tried to do 3-4-3 and it just didn't really work. I think it's going to be 3-5-2, to be honest with you. Kind of a mixture of that, though.
So packing in the midfield then, probably.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Andrew said DCL if back at best, big. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Reese said great content, thank you. And Matt, looking forward to your next show on the armchair.
Yeah, this week, man. Gonna do a prediction show this week, I think.
Oh, interesting. I'll give that a watch. I've already put the link for the weekly armchair in the description, so if you haven't already, people can go and subscribe to the channel. Vaughn's got a weird question for you and said, how do you feel about Everton's squad's fashion sense?
They can wear what they want as long as they're scoring goals in on the pitch. That's all I care about, really. Listen, if they want to wear what they want to wear, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't change my life. Do you know what I mean? So, listen, they can wear what they want to wear. If that's the clothes they like, that's the clothes they like. Simple as that.
I Like Coffee has got a question for you. Will Lampard stay or get sacked? Who would replace Lampard if so? And where would Everton finish this season?
A few questions in there. I don't see Lampard walking, if that's the kind of question he's asking. I think he'll literally wait until he gets sacked because all Premier League managers will do that now because if they walk, they don't get paid. So I don't see him getting sacked either, unless Everton are literally in the relegation zone after 15 games. I don't see him getting sacked either. There's nobody out there to replace Lampard at the moment. That will probably bring us to the next level anyway. So Everton need to realise where they are. They're a mid-table Premier League team who just really had a bad season. So this season, even though we've lost Richarlison, I don't know if it's going to be a good thing or not in terms of. No, this is kind of a far-stretched likening, but the season that Liverpool sold Coutinho and they went on to have a really, really good season the next season, that's what I'm kind of half hoping that Everton do this year, that they're not overly reliant on Richarlison. With DCL being back, McNeil coming in, Anthony Gordon hopefully chipping in. I'm still not sold on him yet. Hopefully he comes in and starts chipping in a few assists and goals. And I'm kind of half hoping we either get one, if not two, of Cornet, Emmanuel Dennis, Ambrosia to kind of replace those goals. We need to start scoring goals from midfield as well. I genuinely can't tell you the last time a midfielder scored a goal for Everton. And I think it was...
What positions like Demarai Gray and Andre Townsend score? Are they strikers for you or midfielders?
Right, wingers, yeah. Wingers. So,
because they both scored against us.
Yeah, Demarai Gray had a really good start to last season and he kind of tailed off. But I think it was just because he was just playing too many games. I mean, Everton had a decent run in the Cups. The FA Cup anyway. And they got through, I think, the fourth round of the League Cup. And I think the likes of Demarai Gray played every single game. I don't know why Rafa Benitez did that at the start of the season. So I think he just suffered from a bit of burnout, to be honest with you. But the thing that I'm liking with Frank Lampard is that he's bringing in options. So if Demarai Gray is having a bit of a burnout, he can drop him for a game or two. Especially with Anthony Gordon, you don't want, even though Anthony Gordon's a young lad, you don't want him to be playing 45, 50 games a season. Do you know what I mean? He's too young. You don't want to burn him out either as well. So Demarai Gray can play off the left, he can play off the right. Dwight McNeil can play off both wings as well. So we have options there, which we never had before. I mean, literally the start of last season, we didn't have a winger to our name. That's why we brought in Townsend and Demarai Gray. So now we have probably at least two options on either side, which is great.
You definitely need that, that's for sure.
I think Everton are going to finish in between 12th and 14th this season, to answer his last question.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I can't remember where I predicted you. I think I predicted 15th.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah, I tell you, if to be honest with you, if you offered me that now, and a comfortable 15th, and not go through the anguish of last season again with the relegation, I'd probably take it. To be honest with you.
Hey there to Antoinette, I hope that you are well. Hey there as well to Neil, I hope you are good as well. Congrats to the Lionesses, what a goal. Tuna, did not think we would win it. How wrong was I? Yeah, I was, can I say, very confident from the beginning, but I think a lot of people probably thought I was delusional at the time. And hey there, Brush, I hope you're well. So before we wrap up, let's talk about that England win.
Okay. Yeah.
I know you said you've watched a bit of the Euros. So for you, what have you thought of the Lionesses tournament?
Do you know what it was? It was kind of just... It was one of those where... I mean this in the nicest way possible. There was probably nothing else on to watch. So when it was on the telly, I'd stick it on. And that's just me being honest, to be honest with you. And I remember watching the Germany-Spain game in the group stages, and I was like, geez, this is actually a really, really good game of football. Spain were brilliant on the ball, and Germany were brilliant at defending, so it was actually a really good tactical battle. I think Germany came out on top in that game as well. And then the England-Spain game I watched, I didn't see any of the England group stage games. Actually, I think I seen one of them where they scored a rake of goals in one of the games. And I watched the England quarterfinal, semi-final, and final. They were very good. I actually thought one player that stood out for me was the midfielder Walsh.
Yes,
she was brilliant in all three of the games, the knockout games. She's just such a classy player, great defender, and just really confident on the ball. But I mentioned that actually last night on Eagle Eye Football Space on Twitter. I was saying that I was very impressed with the way Wiegman, the manager, stuck to her guns and didn't actually change any of starting lineups, especially after the subs came on and played so well for England. Like, the subs pretty much changed the games in the quarters, the semi, and the final. But I'm surprised that I was surprised and actually kind of half delighted that she stuck to her guns and kind of said, "But no, the subs are actually my weapons and I'm going to use them." Instead of saying, "Well, I'm going to start Russo this game," or "I'm going to start Kelly this game." I'm going to bring them on when the Germans are absolutely knackered in the last 20 minutes. And it worked. Like, the Germans didn't do anything in extra time. So,
didn't.
and bringing on Kelly on the right hand side there, she was full of beans. She was flying up and down that wing. She was
Mhm.
injured for all last season. I think she used
Yes.
to play for Everton, and she
Yeah.
moved to Man City.
Mhm.
And I think after a couple of weeks, I think she might have injured herself pretty much
She got
very
a
early
knee
on for Man
injury.
City.
She got a knee injury and she was out for over a season. She came back at the end of last season.
Mm.
She made 5 appearances. She got 1 goal, 4 assists, and then
Yeah, so
she
that's
got brought through.
that's what they were saying, that she was full of energy for this tournament because she hadn't had a full season behind her belt. So listen, I'm actually very impressed, to be honest with you. Delighted that England won it because we could stop hearing about it, when's it coming home and all that now. So it's it's great for them. I mean, I've always
Mhm.
kind of followed players like Lucy Bronze and all that because they've been just they're plastered everywhere all over for the women's game and stuff like that. So it's great for those type of players, great for the women's game, and um, it's only actually going to have a kind of a knock on effect as well for Irish young girls as well, because a lot of Irish young girls icons are playing in the WSL over in England, like the likes of Katie
Mhm.
McCabe playing for Arsenal as well. So it's only going to benefit both Ireland and England youngsters as well. So listen, it's all positive vibes, I suppose. What do you think of it, Maisie?
I've been watching the women's game for a while, England as well, and I'm glad you've touched on Keira Walsh, because Keira Walsh for me is an outstanding player, and I'm jealous that Man City have got her. Um, Back in 2017 as well, she was told she would never make it as a professional footballer.
Mm.
And the fact that she's proved all the odds and said, I can do it, and she's got a player of the match for the final game of the finals, and I think she's England's spine. I genuinely don't think we would have got the trophy if it wasn't for her, because
That's brilliant.
we've got quality all over, and I genuinely look at the way England played. There isn't many weaknesses where I could pinpoint out and go, this is bad off England, this is bad. It's only like little nitpicks but they're not something major what could cost us in things. And
Yeah.
I think the defence has been brilliant. I think Millie Bryant and Williamson has been absolutely outstanding
Mm.
in the centre back. Mary Earps, the goalkeeper, also Manchester United.
Mm.
I think she's been brilliant, and Phil Neville dropped her to say she wasn't good enough. She's actually the smallest England goalkeeper, yet she's got the longest reach, and she's managed to keep out Man City's goalkeeper, who was actually Phil Neville's number 1. So that's also a great achievement from her to define the odds what Phil Neville said, that she's not good enough to be England's number 1. She's brought confidence back of the squad. And what I like of Serena is, you look at Phil Neville's squad and you look at her squad. Out of the starting 11 we put on the pitch, we literally had 9 of the players were played under Phil Neville. 9
Mm.
out of the starting 11. But the difference is that I genuinely think that it was her who was that weapon, because we had enough to go through. We had enough to go to finals, but I just don't think, I'm not saying the confidence wasn't there, but the tactics weren't there from England. And knowing that
Mm.
we've got a magician as a manager who's able to bring them kind of tactics, to bring on the substitutes, what Phil Neville never would have done, and brought you through of Ella to Chloe Keller, Alessia Russo. I think it really worked in England's favour. I do think Serena is an outstanding manager, and the fact that she's only lost 1 game as an England manager, scored over 100 goals, really just shows the kind of manager she is.
Have they even lost a game? I thought they were unbeaten.
Only lost 1.
Well, it's pretty impressive, isn't it? It really is. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just England's time. It kind of fell right for England that they had that kind of the right players at the right time, home tournament. So it was just the right time for England. I think if it wasn't going to be yesterday, it was probably never going to happen for you. So listen,
Exactly.
it's coming home. It's home. Thank God. Never hear that song again now.
You'll hear it when it comes to the World Cup for the men. You'll hear it all the time, but I think they might need to change a bit of the wording now. But the people, I was listening to the radio on the way home from work, and they were saying the people who made the Three Lions song said that they don't need to play the song anymore because it has come home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they'll still play it. They'll still play it.
It's still catchy. It's come home. It's come home. It's come home. Football's finally come home. You've had the pleasure of hearing me sing them, Matt. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, you've heard it. You've sang a few times on the stream. Fair play to you.
That's how
I won't take it away from you. You've had a good weekend, so listen, I'll let you away with it.
Well, Man United tried to ruin it with that 1-1 pre-season, but England well and truly made my weekend, that's for sure.
Just always remember, you could be an Everton fan, Maisy. You could be worse.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I suppose you could be like a Man United fan who had to watch Everton beat us and draw against us.
Yeah, Man United haven't won at Goodison in a while.
I like Coffee's happy that he got to hear me sing before he left. But I did actually say, I think I said that I will actually sing if England won the tournament. So I sang for you all. If you've not watch it back, I'm not doing it again.
I'm privileged. I feel honoured.
Reese, I hate that song, but Maze can at least. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been great to talk to you.
No problem.
Great. Would you like to shout out your socials?
Yeah, so you can see my name there, at Smitty2, talking a lot of rubbish about Everton most of the time, kind of arguing with people who just are negative for no reason whatsoever on Twitter. A lot of that happens on Everton Twitter. Everyone just kind of gives out to each other, so I kind of just go in and just tell people to grow up a bit. So if you fancy a bit of that, go over and find me on Twitter at Smitty2. But in terms of streaming, I'm hosting Talk of the League podcast on the weekly Armchair Sports Talk that Reese mentioned there in the comments. We took a bit of hiatus there during the summer. I was flat out during the summer. I had a lot going on work-wise and family-wise. So we came back there 2 weeks ago. Didn't have a show last week, but we will have a show during the week as well, just to kind of preview the Premier League season coming up and do a few predictions as well. So yeah, go over there, jump on, subscribe, and make sure you like this video. Maze is flying along. Nearly at 2K subs, Maze, are you?
Thank you, Matt, so much. And I put the link in the description below for the weekly Armchair. Put your Twitter handle in the description below as well. So go and subscribe to the weekly Armchair, and as well go and give Matt a follow on Twitter. What I've done as well, I've also put a code on for fantasy football. I put the code up here as well. To join the league for Devils United, D76 IRQ. And if you are the top of the leaderboard when Manchester United women play at Old Trafford, you can win a free ticket from me. So who knows? You could potentially win. I've got a few. I could be getting
the plane over, could I?
And and actually, the last time when Man United women played at Old Trafford, they played against Everton. Last time,
yeah, and you hockeyed us. I think I can remember. Was that the time you hockeyed us? Yeah. So, now listen, the weekly Armchair as well. They don't just do football; they do loads of stuff. They cover the basketball, they cover the rest. Reese does the wrestling podcast as well on the weekly Armchair. So, they touch on a bit of the UFC, and they actually have a lot of Manchester United content on there as well. So, if you like any of that stuff, go over, give it a subscribe, and I'm sure the likes of Reese and Rach and the guys over there will be showing up a few videos. The basketball season's over at the moment, but the wrestling's on every weekend, isn't it? So make sure you get stuck in and get over and like and subscribe to the channel.
Thank you so much, Matt. And to Reese's question in terms of what's next, I've got a few things coming up this week. I've got my player profile on Amad Diallo, which Reese is actually coming on for at his time at Rangers. I've got a Man United versus Brighton preview on Thursday, plus as well Premier League prediction show with John. And on Friday, I have got another player profile with Bernard's time at Hull City. So go and check that out. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and go and check out Weekly Armchair and Matt's Twitter. Until then, we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.